and welcome to my presentation on the human digestive system. So, the human digestive system is required in order for the digestion and absorption of food. This occurs by breaking down food into small molecules in order for the body to be able to absorb it. The system is made up of loads of different organs and is essentially one tube from your mouth to your anal canal, also known as the alimentary canal. The picture behind me shows the different components of the digestive system. So we'll start with the mouth. The mouth contains the teeth and the tongue. The teeth break down the food by chewing, and the tongue turns the food, which then forms a bolus and mixes the food with saliva. The food is then pushed down the esophagus, which is the tube connected to your stomach, which is covered in elastic fibrous tissue. This is done by something called peristalsis, which is the involuntary swallowing mechanism. The liver produces bile. This helps digestion by emulsifying fats, which aids the pancreatic and intestinal juices. It has the fat-splitting enzymes in it, which is discussed more later. The bile is then transported to the gallbladder via the bile duct. The stomach is a hollow organ. It has muscles in it that churn and move the food, which also mixes it with gastric juices. And then this turns the bolus into chyme. The pancreas is also key. It produces the enzymes which are in pancreatic juice, which includes things like trypsin to digest proteins, amylase for carbohydrates, and lipase for fats. It also releases insulin, which when the blood sugar level is low, it causes energy stores to be broken down, which raises your blood sugar again. The chyme then travels to the small intestine. The small intestine is made up of three parts. You have the duodenum. This is where the chyme becomes alkaline and mixed with pancreatic juices and intestinal juices for digestion. It then goes into the jejunum and the ileum. The walls of the intestine have villi, which are basically shaped like this. This increases their surface area to volume ratio, which also increases the amount of molecules that can be absorbed by the body. The chyme then travels into the large intestine, which absorbs vitamins and removes water. So the first part of the large intestine is the ascending colon, which is where the water is removed. The next is the transverse colon, and then the descending colon, which is where the feces are stored. And the final part of the large intestine is the sigmoid, which pushes the feces into the rectum, then into the anal canal, where it is then released out of the body. So, as previously touched upon, there are different types of digestion. So you have mechanical. Mechanical digestion happens in the mouth, like the teeth that break down the food. It also happens in the stomach, where it is churned. But you also have chemical digestion. This actually starts in the mouth. So in the saliva you have something called amylase, which breaks down starches into sugars. So enzymes, what are they? Well, an enzyme is a key component of the digestive system. They are very specific, which means that one molecule can only bind to a specific enzyme. It binds to a thing called the active site. A reaction then occurs and that molecule is changed. The molecule in this case is usually made smaller. It's known as the lock and key theory. They also have optimum conditions, so as our bodies are normally 37 degrees, this is normally most enzymes' preferred condition. However, they do have different pH optimum conditions depending on where they are in the body. So those in the gastric glands, such as pepsin, which break down large proteins, prefers a low pH, such as 1.5 to 1.6. But then you also have lactase, which breaks down lactose, which has an optimum pH of about 2 to 7, preferably 6. So next is diet. So within this presentation, when we talk about diet, I mean the habitual consumed food, not one for medical conditions such as DASH or anything for weight loss. A healthy balanced diet is one that includes the right amount of fat, protein, carbohydrates, vitamins, minerals. What you see on the screen is the Eat Well plate. Now this tells you how much of every food group you should be getting daily. This includes around a third fruit and veg for things such as vitamins, minerals and fibre, about a third starch for energy and fibre. Next you have meat, fish, beans for protein, iron, zinc, fibre and more. And then you have sugary fats in foods, which gives you salt, energy, fat, although these should be limited. And last section is dairy for your minerals and vitamins. Liquid is very key for your body as well, although not in the Eat Well plate. An average adult should be drinking about 1.5 to 2 litres of liquid every day, half of which should be water. So liquid's important as it helps us to transport nutrients, aid in chemical reaction, things like that. To expand on the previous information, talk about things like carbohydrates in more detail. So carbohydrates will always be converted into glucose and then into glycogen, which is to be stored in the body. Glycogen can be broken down, as we discussed before, which is also known as gluconeogenesis. They're made up of saccharides, which are sugar units, and things like glucose and galactose are monosaccharides, and then you have lactose, which is a disaccharide. They're all simple carbohydrates, although you do have complex carbohydrates, which are from things such as white breads and pastas. Protein is used for growth and repair. They also aid in hormone production, antibody production, and it's an energy source, although not the primary one. Proteins are made up of amino acids. Now this is where a healthy balanced diet is really important. So we can get most of our amino acids by making them in our body. However, 9 of our amino acids cannot be created by our body. We need to eat them. This is important because amino acids create your proteins in your body. Fat and oil. These are known as lipids. Cell membranes are created by lipids. There are also many other different uses for lipids. So an oil is a fat that's liquid at room temperature, and fats are solid at room temperature. So lipids are triglycerides. It means they have a glycerol and 3 fatty acid tails. Not all fat is negative for the body. We know that it's highly useful. Unsaturated fats are the healthy ones. That's been theorised. And they're from plants, nuts and fish, which can lower harmful cholesterol. Lastly, we have minerals, vitamins and fibre. So vitamins are synthesised by plants, except the vitamin D, which we get from sunlight. Vitamin A, for example, is required by cholesterol in order for producing hormones. Minerals are needed for regulation of metabolic, hormonal and nervous function systems in the body. An example is calcium, which is also needed for bone growth and muscular contractions. Fibre is found in plants, but it isn't digestible. It helps the transport of food through the system by bulking out food and feces. It also aids in the growth of helpful bacteria. Thank you for listening to my presentation. The last slide that I will show you is all the references I've used in this presentation. Have a good rest of your day. Thank you for listening.